Hello, my pretties. Welcome to today's episode of Mondays with the Midwife. Today I have a real treat for you. I've brought my partner and Miss Giselle.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Mondays with the Midwife. Today we are discussing
Scary things that can happen during birth.
We have a lot of questions that we get from a lot of our patients that come in about what are the most scary things that can happen to me when I have a baby. So today we're going to talk about some of those questions and give you some solutions to the problems. Our first question today for you, which
Yes, B.
is what happens if it hurts too bad when I'm having a baby?
So basically, one of the key sources of pain that women have is exacerbated by fear. There's a cycle in our body called the pain, fear, tension cycle. And what happens with this is sometimes things that shouldn't be overly painful are more painful because we're so very afraid. When fear hits our body, it causes a physiologic response called the fight or flight. And when fight or flight kicks in, basically takes oxygen away from what your body perceives as unnecessary organs in order to fuel things like your brain, your heart, and your lungs. So the uterus is one of those things that your body isn't really sure it has to have. So when you're very afraid, blood is shunted away from your uterus, causing everything that's going on with your uterus to feel more painful. So some tips that I would have for you relating to not having too much or excessive pain in labor is to learn to control your mind when it comes to fear.
But how do I do that?
Well, I'm glad you should ask that, Bee. Because we do have some resources available at Breathe through our lending library and also the local libraries and other Google and other sources on lots of different books out there. One of them is called Mindful Birthing by Nancy Bardas. It's a very good resource that walks you through some of the things you could expect with pregnancy, labor, parenting, and overcoming some of the fear that's associated with that. So you get rid of some of that fear, you get rid of some of the pain that's not necessary. Another great book is Mind Over Labor by Carl Jones. This book is actually quite old. Well, not quite old, but it's from the 80s. It's a very good resource that again talks about controlling the fear that doesn't have to accompany labor.
But what do we have specifically at Breathe that can help our patients overcome fear and pain when they're in labor?
Well, one of the things that we are specialists in at Breathe is continuous labor support. So we're here with you the entire time, encouraging you to relax. We have lots of classes that will help you build the knowledge that you need in order to take control over your mind. And knowledge is power. Knowledge also helps you overcome fear, and getting rid of the fear will help you eliminate some of the unnecessary pain that goes along. So in addition to continuous labor support and educational classes, the most popular pain relieving method that we have at Breathe is use of our birthing tubs and water for pain relief. It's been shown to be highly effective to aid in relaxation, which then decreases fear and promotes the progression of labor. What are some of the other questions that our patients have asked?
Well, what if something happens to me or my baby? I mean, we're not in a hospital, so how exactly do you take care of problems that come up during labor and delivery?
That's a great question. So, birth centers are highly prepared to handle many emergencies in labor. Let me just tell you and reiterate that only about 2% of transfers that go out of the birth center into the hospital are truly urgent. That means they could become life-threatening. So some of those things, the best way to handle them quickly is to have an excellent plan in place with your emergency providers, your emergency transfer team, and to know exactly where your patients are going. So one of the things I would recommend to you is to ask your care provider, if it's birth center or out of hospital birth, what is the plan for emergency transfer? Where am I going? What do I need to know about that ahead of time? And just to be prepared. So some of the things that seem really scary and can be scary, we can actually handle at the birth center without having to transfer you. One of those would be like if you're having excessive bleeding, you're having a postpartum hemorrhage. We have medications and the skills needed to evaluate the source of bleeding. And if it's something that we can handle here, we do that quickly. And if not, then we arrange for an emergency transfer. Another thing that might be really scary for a mom is if her baby comes out naturally, but then it doesn't respond and transition very well and needs a little extra help with the transition from being inside to being outside of the uterus. So we have a neonatal resuscitation card available with the ability to help the baby breathe. We initiate that, and we can initiate what we call neonatal resuscitation protocols, where we actually start baby CPR. And then we would arrange for an emergency transfer in that situation as well. Your job in this whole process is to stay as calm as possible, to give your body good oxygenation and your baby good oxygenation.
Our final question today is, what if I come to breathe and I end up not being able to have my baby here and I end up in a C-section? I'm really scared about that. Can you tell me what that looks like?
Sure. Unfortunately, there isn't a guarantee that you won't need a C-section. But the good news is that 93% of women that start their care at a birth center have been shown to have a vaginal delivery. So that's a 6 to 7% C-section rate when you compare to the 27 to 33% C-section rate for the same population of healthy low-risk moms in the hospital setting. Now, if you do get transferred and have to have a C-section, our policy is that we go to the hospital with you and make sure that you have the support that you need, even though you're having a surgical delivery as opposed to having a natural birth. And we'll be there to support you and help you breastfeed and help you bond with your baby, just as we would if you were here at the center giving birth.
So as you can see here at Breathe, we are well qualified to take care of you and your baby. All of our employees here at Breathe are certified in neonatal resuscitation, and we are registered nurses. So alongside Regina, we are here to take care of you, evaluate and assess the situation prior to things getting a little bit too scary to where we may have to transfer you to the hospital. Well, thank you so much, Witch, for being with us today on Mondays with the Midwife.
Thanks, B. So next week on Mondays with the Midwife, Giselle will be back, and she's going to talk to you about what you could expect when you come to Breathe Birth and Wellness. Have a great day.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.